and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja, and these are the headlines. Pakistan has set its economic growth target at 4.8% for the financial year 2021-22 as it unveils the budget of over $54 billion. Speaking at the Parliament, Finance Minister Shaukat Tareen said $5.7 billion will be spent on development, a 40% increase from last year. He said the economy is now back on track despite the COVID-19 pandemic. In Pakistan, security forces have killed 2 terrorists during an intelligence-based operation in western Balochistan province. The military's media wing says a soldier was martyred during the exchange of fire in AFGHAN district. It says arms and ammunition were also recovered. China says unilateral bullying acts of the United States are the root cause of the Iranian nuclear issue. Addressing a UN conference, Foreign Minister Wang Yi said lifting sanctions is the first step for a return to the 2015 deal. India has logged more than 3,400 deaths from COVID-19 and 91,000 infections overnight. Meanwhile, Pakistan has registered 47 fatalities and over 1,300 cases in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.7 million lives and infected over 174 million people. And in the Pakistan Super League, Lahore Qalandars beat Peshawar Zalmi by 10 runs to extend their lead at the top of the points table. Tim David's fiery 68 and Ben Dunk's 48 helped the Qalandars put 177 runs on the board for Zalmi to chase. But Rashid Khan ripped through Zalmi's lineup with a 5 for 20 runs. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Pakistan has set its economic growth target at 4.8% for the financial year 2021-22 as it unveils the budget of over $54 billion. Speaking at the Parliament, Finance Minister Shaukat Tareen said $5.7 billion will be spent on development, a 40% increase from last year, while $641 million have been allocated for COVID-19 emergency fund. The finance minister also announced that there is no new tax being imposed on the salaried class. He said the economy is now on the back that he wants to increase the growth to at least 6% in the next couple of years. In Pakistan, security forces have killed 2 terrorists during an intelligence-based operation in Balochistan province. The military's media wing says a soldier was martyred during an exchange of fire in AFGHAN district. It says arms and ammunition were also recovered. The army says security forces are committed to defending Pakistan against nefarious designs. It vowed to protect the hard-earned peace and stability in Balochistan at any cost. The United States says it has started directing combat operations in Afghanistan from outside the country. In a congressional hearing, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the military is conducting air combat patrols and support from ships in the Gulf.
As more than 50% of U.S. troops have withdrawn from Afghanistan, the U.S. Defense Secretary says it will be very difficult to provide combat support to the Afghan forces once the pullout is complete. Austin said Washington is sending surveillance aircraft to Afghanistan from nations in the Gulf region. He said the U.S. is still looking for options to station troops and aircraft in neighboring countries to make the flight shorter. But he said that effort is still a work in progress and he has no timetable for completion of any negotiations. Speaking about China, Austin cautioned that it is critical to have direct lines of communication with China in case of an accident.
The Taliban have rejected a Turkish proposal to guard and run Kabul's airport after U.S.-led forces depart. In an interview, a spokesperson said Ankara is a part of NATO forces and it should withdraw troops under the 2020 deal. Sohail Shaheen said the Taliban hope for good relations with Turkey after a new government is established. It comes a day after U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin discussed regional issues with Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar. China says United States' unilateral bullying acts were the root cause of the Iranian nuclear issue. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said parties to the 2015 nuclear deal must redouble diplomatic efforts to bring the accord back on track. Addressing the UN-backed Conference on Disarmament, Wang emphasized this as the talks to revive the deal are in final spirit in Vienna. Wang also urged U.S. and Russia to cut their nuclear arsenals and reject the Cold War mentality of zero-sum game. He called for efforts to strengthen the effectiveness of the multilateral disarmament mechanism. Meanwhile, U.S. Disarmament Ambassador Robert Wood urged China to engage in talks on the risk reduction and strategic stability. This comes just days before U.S. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin met in Geneva. The United States has voiced concerns over Iranian Navy ships currently sailing across the Atlantic. In a congressional hearing, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin accused them of possibly transferring weapons to Venezuela. Austin said he is concerned about the proliferation of weapons in Washington's neighborhood, but he has not yet spoken to any other leaders from the countries in the region about the ships. It was earlier reported that the United States is monitoring 2 Iranian Navy ships heading northwest. A top Iranian military commander said Iran is entitled under international law to have a naval presence in international waters. Dozens of Palestinians have been injured as Israeli police attacked worshippers in East Jerusalem. Palestinian media says the troops abducted at least 10 people, including a child from Old City's Damascus Gate. They were protesting the visit of a far-right Israeli lawmaker, Itamar Ben-Gvir, aimed at inciting tensions. Israeli occupying forces also fired many stun grenades and gas bombs at the Palestinians. Eyewitnesses say colonialist setters backed by soldiers also assaulted and shouted racist slurs at the Palestinians. The G7 leaders are set to promise to share 1 billion coronavirus vaccines with the rest of the world. India has logged more than 3,400 deaths from COVID-19 and 91,000 infections overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.7 million lives and infected over 174 million people. More in this report.
Calls for a wider review of India's COVID-19 death toll are growing amid suspicion that many victims have not been included in official figures. This comes a day after Bihar state revised its tally of fatalities by 4,000. In the US, the bells at the National Cathedral tolled 600 times as the death toll approached 600,000. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has announced the donation of 500 million vaccine doses.
Let me be clear. Just as with the 80 million doses we previously announced, the United States is providing these 500,000 doses with no strings attached. Let me say it again, with no strings attached. Our vaccine donations don't include pressure for favors or potential concessions. We're doing this to save lives, to end this pandemic.
Over in Europe, Public Health England's latest data shows that new cases across Britain are on the rise again. The UK has pledged to donate 100 million surplus vaccine doses in the next year to low-income countries. Britain and the US also agreed to tackle new pandemics by bolstering disease surveillance and genome sequencing worldwide. In Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel welcomed a recent decrease in new cases but warned against the Delta variant.
We must not forget that the coronavirus has not disappeared, and we are concerned about the Delta strain, which at the moment spreads in Britain and shows an exponential growth over there. And it proves us right in upholding severe entry restrictions for Britain and also for India.
Australia's Victoria State reported 0 locally acquired cases for the first time in nearly 3 weeks. Researchers in China say they found a batch of new coronaviruses in bats, including one that may be the second closest yet to COVID-19. Meanwhile, South Africa has officially entered its third wave of infections.
Pakistan has recorded 47 new deaths from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry says the country's death toll has surged to 21,576. The nationwide caseload is approaching 939,000, with 1,300 new infections overnight. The number of active cases in the country stands at 43,000. Over 2,800 of them are under intensive care, whereas more than 873,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. In Pakistan, 19 people have been killed after a bus carrying pilgrims fell down a ravine in Balochistan province. Authorities say children are among the victims. Officials said 50 people were wounded, out of which several are critical. They say the accident took place in the Kundar-Rotodero highway, about 40 kilometers from Khuzdar city. Today marks 30 years since the CHOTTA BAZAAR massacre in Srinagar in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The occupation forces opened indiscriminate fire and killed 32 Kashmiris in 1991. A spokesperson for the AFGHAN has urged the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to take cognizance of the genocide of Kashmiris at the hands of Indian troops. Pakistan's Foreign Office said despite repeated demands of judicial inquiry, the victims and their families are still awaiting justice. They said India cannot break Kashmiri's struggle for self-determination through extrajudicial killings and fake encounters. It has urged the international community to hold India accountable for its grave human rights violations in the occupied territory. Azerbaijan says Armenian troops have opened fire on Azeri soldiers guarding their shared border. In a statement, Baku said Yerevan is aggravating the situation by military provocations in the Kalabajar region. The Defense Ministry added that the Armenian side bears full responsibility for the event. However, the ministry did not report any casualties. Tensions between the two neighbors are rising again after the end of the Nagorno-Karabakh war in November 2020. Turkey says it has killed 2 more fighters of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in northern Iraq. In a tweet, the Turkish Defense Ministry said the militants were killed in Operation Claw Yıldemir. It said that the Turkish military used drones to target the PKK fighters in their hideouts. Ankara holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year terror campaign. The United Nations has warned of worsening violence in Myanmar, calling for a stronger diplomatic effort by the ASEAN and other influential states. In a statement, UN High Commissioner on Human Rights Michelle Bachelet said no effort has been made towards de-escalation despite the military's commitments to ASEAN. Meanwhile, local media said a man has been wounded and several motorbikes damaged in a bomb explosion in Mandalay. There are reports of anti-regime protests in the Sagaing region. Earlier, Myanmar authorities arrested over 800 suspects for committing terror acts, murders, and illegally possessing firearms. According to a rights group, Myanmar's military has killed at least 860 people since it declared the state of emergency on the 1st of February. China has opposed the UK's 6th monthly report on Hong Kong, urging London to stop meddling in internal matters. The report accused Beijing of undermining Hong Kong's autonomy and curtailing its freedoms. In a statement, a foreign ministry spokesperson said the report distorts truth and tramples on international law. It said London has shown total disregard for the positive momentum in the Hong Kong situation. The spokesperson added Britain has turned a blind eye to the dark past of its colonial rule over the territory. They also defended the one country, two systems principle and the national security law, and said that the reforms in Hong Kong's electoral system protect its political stability. China has punished 27 government officials for last month's ultramarathon deaths in northwestern Gansu province. At least 21 people died of hypothermia when extremely cold weather descended on a government-organized marathon. Investigators said that the head of Jin Tai's country, where the race was held, was dismissed from her post. The other organizers were held accountable, including the mayor and the Communist Party chief of Bian City. Further punishments imposed on officials, including mayor demerit ratings and disciplinary warnings. Earlier, China's Sports Administration suspended all high-risk events that lack a supervisory body and clear safety standards. China has opposed foreign interference in Ethiopia's internal affairs. Foreign Minister Wang Yi made these remarks on a phone call with his Ethiopian counterpart, Demeke Mekonnen. Wang said that the international community should not impose unilateral sanctions on Ethiopia and respects its will. The foreign minister said China is willing to assist in Tigray and has dispatched the first batch of food aid. It added that Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan should resolve the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam issue through talks. Mekonnen thanked Beijing for helping Addis Ababa fighting COVID-19 and hoped to boost bilateral cooperation. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Colombian police have seized 2,061 kilograms of cocaine in the Caribbean Sea. Officials say they also arrested 5 Colombians in the largest seizure of this year's on the island of San Andreas. The 2 tons of cocaine have an estimated value of $74 million. Officials say the drugs belong to trafficking structures linked to the Gulf Clan organized armed group. Other criminal groups in Central America were to receive them. Despite decades of anti-narcotics efforts, Colombia remains one of the world's top cocaine producers. The China National Space Administration released the first batch of images taken by the country's Mars rover Zhurong. The images include landing site, panorama, Martian landscape, and the landing platform with the Chinese flag on it. The images were unveiled in a ceremony in Beijing to mark the success of China's first Mars exploration mission. China's Tianwen-1 mission, consisting of an orbiter, a lander, and a rover, was launched on July 23, 2020. It touched down on the southern part of Utopia Planitia, a vast plain in the northern hemisphere of Mars, on the 15th of May. This probe makes China the second country after the United States to land and operate a rover on Mars. Famous rock star Mick Jagger's jackets are up for sale at an auction by Christie's. It is up around 55 lots designed by Lorraine Scott, who died from suicide in 2014 at the age of 49. The outfits on sale include dresses donned by Nicole Kidman and Sarah Jessica Parker. Among items on sale are 2 jackets Scott and Jagger collaborated on for the Rolling Stones frontman. Both have had a price of estimate of $28,000 to $42,000. Head of sale Caitlin Yates says that this is the first time a collection from Scott's archives have come to the market. Proceeds from the sale will go towards the Lorraine Scott Scholarship set up by Jagger in 2015. Aerospace company Archer Aviation has unveiled its first electric flying taxi. The 2-seater demonstration aircraft Maker has been termed as a stepping stone towards commercial operations. Details in this report.
Archer Aviation's first electric flying taxi, Maker, made a flashy debut in Hawthorne, California, with the use of ride simulation XR technology. The battery-powered aerial vehicle is an autonomous 2-seat demonstration model for an electric vertical takeoff and landing design. It can take off and land like a helicopter and fly at 150 miles per hour for distances up to 60 miles.
Archer is building electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that will be used in and around urban environments. So these vehicles take off and land like a helicopter, but then they also fly forward on a wing. And they're all powered by these electric motors. So it's this brand new type of aviation that we're really seeing kind of being ushered in, all being driven on the advancements of battery technology.
Archer expects Maker's commercial launch in 2024 in Los Angeles and Miami. It aims to counter congestion on the roads due to the increasing number of vehicles.
Yeah, we see a tremendous amount of traffic on the ground today. In Los Angeles, every day there's 50 million daily trips, of which over 5 million take over an hour. And what we're really trying to do here is move that traffic that's having trouble on the ground into the air. We're doing that in a fully sustainable form of transportation. We can do it very cost-effective and safe for the everyday user. So our real goal is to make a mass market transportation solution in and around cities.
Aerospace companies are looking for new markets and are under pressure to help decarbonize the industry. This has resulted in an increased interest in zero-emission aircraft that take off and land like helicopters but fly like planes.
In Turkey, a loyal and lion-hearted squirrel has become the guardian of his rescuer's belongings. Mimo Khan does not let anyone get close to the cash register except for his owner, Mehmet Yüksel. When he is not on guard, the little animal loves to dash about the display counter and stroll around. Yüksel rescued the squirrel and his brothers after their mother was found dead 3 months ago. The duo has been living together since then. Yüksel says Mimo Khan, who is recovering from a paw injury, will return to the wild soon after making a full recovery. The UK says it is up to the EU to respond to proposals to resolve the Northern Irish trade issue. In an interview, Britain's Foreign Minister Dominic Raab said the ball is very much in the EU's court. Raab said the EU should focus on delivering a win-win solution instead of delusive approach recently seen. He said a meeting between British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and US President Joe Biden was incredibly warm. But Raab said that the pair did not linger on discussions on the Northern Irish issue. European markets have inched higher as global markets try to shrug off a sharp rise in U.S. inflation. London's FTSE is leading the gains, rising more than 0.5%. The CAC 40 in Paris has added nearly 0.5% as well. The Pan-European Stock 600 and Frankfurt's DAX have edged up marginally, while Italy's FTSE MIB is trading flat. Earlier, most Asian bourses traded mixed with mainland Chinese stocks and Japanese bourses in negative territory. It's now time to take a look at the weather updates from around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at indus.news.